Alrighty folks, let's get this going. This is where the fun begins. I love the Star Wars quotes. General Kenobi, you make my day. Alright, let me pop over here so you folks can see me. Hello! Forgive me for, I know that I'm like a couple of minutes late. I was rushing around there because I sat down to do this stream and one of my lights just cut off. So I have a makeshift light over here, which is making me like a little more blue today, and I apologize for that. I have like a warm light and a blue light. So I hope that this is all right for everyone. I'm gonna have to kind of noodle with my tech setup right after this. But yeah, let's dive into our content for today. For those of you who are here today and it's your first time being present for one of the creative challenges, my name is Voodoo Val, and I'm gonna be your instructor this morning on through the end of the week and beyond. We are going to, General Kenobi's talking about laser swords and lightsabers. We are going to be diving into some gradients and warp tools today, and the purpose of today's challenge is not necessarily to, like, we've done a lot of things so far. We've done like fictional clients, we've done problem solving, but today the purpose of today's challenge is not necessarily to create something for a fictional client or to solve a problem, but to familiarize you folks with some tools and some of their unique features that you may not have known about before, or maybe you know about them but you don't use them currently. And it's always a great idea to kind of jump in to these more obscure tools and test them out a little bit, just in case you need them and they can solve a problem for you in the future. So I'm going to pop over to the landing page where you can get involved with me. And anyone over on the YouTube channel, please come over to behance.net/live, because that is where I am reading the chat. Hello Farah, hello Frank, Jefferson, Ferry, Sam Peterson, Sean, Christian, it's good to see all of you folks. Andreas, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Let's pop over here. Ta-da! Okay. So this is behance.net/challenge/Photoshop. If I scroll down here, you will see number 1, it says March 1st through March 26th. That is how long these challenges will be shown. So if you're watching this video, but you come to this page and it doesn't actually show you that time frame, it is probably because you are in the future watching a stream from the past. And all you have to do to find the March 1st through March 26th streams is simply to, oops, I just cranked down my music big time, is to scroll down here and check out these past projects and challenges, and you could just find yourself the proper time frame. Now, you can also scroll down here and get a little 1 through 4 of how these challenges work, as well as a challenge that is going to be revealed to you every morning at about 8 a.m. Pacific time. So we have done the photo compositing, packaging design, photo manipulation, special effects, photo editing, making patterns challenges thus far. And today we're doing gradients and warp. It says use the assets provided alongside gradients and warp tools to create a swirl of colors that mimic the look and feel of pie filling. So a strange challenge, but like I said, this is going to be diving into a lot of filters and adjustments and things that you folks can use to warp something very, very simple into something highly detailed that could serve a specific purpose. And I was thinking we are going to be like mimicking pie filling today, but I was also thinking something that was interesting for this is that it didn't just look like pie filling when I tried to do this. It also looks like satin material, which is something that you could learn how to do in order to create product shots and things like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and dive into it. If you would like to follow along, all you have to do is press get started right here, and it will take you to this page where you can download the starter files to participate with me. And I'm going to go ahead and bump myself over to the left hand side, and then I'm going to page down and jump into Photoshop. All right, so challenge 7, this is the starter file that you will see when you jump in here. It gives you the same kind of challenge spiel, and then it also says assets, and a pie photo is kind of set in here for you, and you can go to Adobe Stock and download this. It is a free image, so if you need to use this stock image because you don't have an image that you could use in its place for this project and you don't have any stock credits, that is totally fine, because this is totally free for you to use and you don't have to worry about paying for an image or any of that stuff. So I need some I need some bananas to generate that amount of power, but in this future, bananas have gone extinct. I don't know what you folks are talking about, but I'm interested in it. It sounds like an epic space opera, and I want to be a part of it. Write me in. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, like I said, I created an organized library of all the images for all the challenges before I began all of the streams. And I did that so that you guys did not have to watch me kind of struggle and grab all of the photos as we went through the process. I just had them prepared. So I can come down here and I can select my homemade mixed pie image, and that pie image looks a little bit like this. Now, what I'm gonna do is I am going to create a kind of, I mean, I guess I I frequently find that I do random things on the fly for these challenges, even though I have set in stone what I'm going to do, which is fine. But I suppose we could make a kind of graphic with this if you folks really need a real world application of something. So maybe what we could do is, maybe I'll grab the pen tool real quick. And maybe I will create a shape here like this, and we'll make a shape. And maybe we will Control J to duplicate that, and Control T to flip this around, and then drag this up to the corner here, because maybe this is like a little cutout advertisement of pie. I don't know. That could be really interesting, and maybe if I group these together with Control G, I can have that on its own little spare place, and then maybe I grab my text tool and put in like pie sale, you know, something like that. I can double click this here, and we will grab like, actually I could sample a color from here and do like a charcoal color from there, and then maybe I will transform this up here, and I could do caps, because I like caps for this pie sale, and maybe I'll turn this to, honestly I could go into like Montserrat. Lotto is cool, maybe we'll make that, you know, black. And then I can, you know, put this here, and maybe I will drag out kind of a text box here of information that has some lorem ipsum in it, and we'll crank up that, there we go. So I've got a little bit of lorem ipsum, and maybe I will, oops, I want to make that slightly bigger, not slightly smaller. Maybe we'll put that in like that and change some of these settings here to make it a little bit farther apart, or something like that, you know, like we could do all kinds of stuff. We could put pie sale there, and then maybe you go find a graphic, and I'll do this for the purpose of doing this quickly. I will grab my brush tool and just sketch something. Maybe you grab a some kind of little graphic that has, you know, like an ingredient, or maybe you know, you draw a strawberry here or something. I don't know why you would, well, you know, actually a strawberry is not so bad. Maybe you put like a little strawberry design here, and maybe there's, you know, one back here as well, and it's, you know, a little pile of strawberries. Maybe that's interesting to put right there to fill that space. But, you know, experiment with it. See what you want to do. Maybe there's something up here too. I'm not sure, but that's how, you know, just make it functional. But as for the actual kind of warp tool and everything, we're going to take everything out of this pie and we're going to replace it with a filling that we've created purely from the distort filters and all of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock this background, and I'm going to come in with my object selection tool. If you don't see your object selection tool when you press W, you may have to right click your quick selection tool or your magic wand tool to open this tray and select it. And I am just going to come through here and I'm going to drag a region around all of these little spaces here. I'm just gonna start, oops, I need to hold shift to add this. I'm just gonna add, you know, kind of select all these little spaces because I'm gonna fill them in with something else, something other than what is in there already. And if I hold shift throughout this process, I could just come in here and start to select all of these little cutouts in the pie. There we go. And I am gonna have to clean it up because it's not 100% precise or perfect, but I mean, it's pretty good, to be honest. It's pretty decent. So let's maybe get a little more of that. That works for me. Honestly, this stuff up here is kind of showing, but we could blur that a little more to kind of blend in what we're about to add. So with my lasso tool, I am going to hold shift and come in and clean up some of these little tiny areas, like so. I'm going to remove bits from here and just kind of make that look a little more cohesive with the rest of my my selections, just to make it clean, you know? And now that I have that, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna create a mask, okay? And the way that I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna come in and I am going to hit my mask button. Oops, that masks the rest of it. So let me right click with a selection tool selected. You can right click a selection region and you can hit select inverse. And now let's mask. Boom. So now I have like my pie that is sans a filling. And I am going to create a new layer with Control Shift in, and I am going to kind of bump this down to the bottom. And I am going to also group all of this design stuff here, and I'm just going to call this graphic so that it's all on its own separate thing. Now we're going to fill this with something interesting, okay? So we're gonna explore, I'd like you to practice using distort filters and gradient maps, because some people I noticed have messaged me saying that they had never used gradient maps because we had used them in previous DCC challenge weeks in the past. And so I wanted to make sure that I focused on gradient maps and all of the finer points of using them, as well as some of the more obscure distort filters that some of you have probably never touched. So the first thing I'm going to do is, maybe we can hide this pie for now. I'm going to grab my gradient tool, which is under my paint bucket tool, and I am going to make sure I have like a dark red selected, and then I'm going to select, honestly, that color red is fine, maybe something just slightly brighter, and I'm going to make myself a gradient. Maybe I'll do it in this direction so I have like the brighter. There we go. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come up to filter, and I'm going to go to distort, and then I'm gonna go to wave. And this is a weird one, so bear with me here. This is very strange. In fact, I am actually going to, I'm gonna cancel and I'm gonna hold F, and I'm gonna bump this over here so that we can see everything that's going on here. Okay, let's go to back to distort and then back to wave. There we go. So there's a lot of really strange generators and things in here, and you can kind of tweak them to what you like. Personally, I like a single generator in mind, but if I crank this up, you can see how it starts to like make this weird plaid kind of effect here, but I'm going to leave it on one generator, and I'm going to mess with the wavelength kind of thing here. Okay, so I'm going to bump that down. I want a little more texture in there, and I'm going to play with the amplitude because I know that I want to kind of bump this into a strange, there we go. I want to, let me see. What I want to do is kind of make that textury like so. And this is gonna be very, very subtle. So I know that this is strange, but bear with me. Okay, so I'm making myself like this weird texture here in this gradient. And then I'm gonna do it again because now that my piece has more kind of more going on with it, it's going to be even more insane when I do this a second time. So if I go to wave, you can see it starts to get even more texture in there. But I want to kind of crank this wavelength in and out. Let's see if I can bump the amplitude down. And what I'm trying to do here is mimic a kind of filling. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to mimic filling in a way that makes this look like swirly something, okay? I want it to feel like I've created some kind of swirling, ooh, that looks cool. That looks interesting. Like, you know, like pie filling, like what pie filling usually looks like. So I'm gonna go ahead and maybe leave it like that. It could be interesting right there. And then we can do it again. Let's see if I come down to distort, and then, I mean, we could also do spherize, which would be interesting instead of doing wave again. In fact, what I'll do, I'm gonna Control Z, and I'm gonna do spherize first. So let's go to distort and do spherize or twirl. So let's try twirl actually. You get like a little funky thing like this, and let me zoom out. Because you see how it puts like this swirl in my canvas? It literally twists my canvas. So let's do something more like that. Let's say okay, and then let's do a wave and see what that does, because it kind of gives us more to work with. That's starting to look cool. So let's kind of like bump in here, and I think that's giving us more of like a juicy kind of like filling texture that I think is kind of cool. Let's leave it like that, and then let's do wave one more time. Distort, wave. A little much. Let's kind of bump it in there. Ooh, that's starting to look like, you know, like pie filling, or like, it also kind of looks like I mentioned earlier, it looks kind of like satin in a strange way. If you think about it, it looks kind of like, you know, like silky, satiny kind of fabric almost. There we go. There's starting to get some nice texture. Okay, so we've created kind of this weird pie filling, and if I turn this on, you can start to see that it's it kind of does what I wanted it to do. However, we could really benefit from a little more texture in here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna transform this, and I'm gonna try to push more of this detail in here. You can continue to do a wave filter if you want. That actually is kind of neat. Maybe we will actually pull that out just a little more. And then what you can do is you can add a gradient map to this to kind of have more control over the colors. So we're gonna go up to image and adjustment. And actually, I'm gonna hide this pie first. Image adjustment and gradient map, but maybe we'll use our levels first, because I'm thinking too, when we apply our gradient map, we're gonna want things to be a little dramatic. Maybe something like that just gives us more variation between the colors. I just did Control L to pull those up, and then I made these values a little more dramatic next to each other. So now we'll go adjustments and gradient map. And I have like my dark red color selected already, and I'm gonna hit reverse, and then I'm gonna come in here and I'm going to start editing this. So I'm going to kind of bump this down. Maybe I didn't want them reversed. Maybe I will put this over here. Yeah, there we go. And then one thing I'm gonna do is I am going to add another color here, and I kind of want to add again this dark red, because I want to start bringing in these other kind of values to this. And if I push this all the way over here, and then push this all the way over here, I can start to get this like gelatinous weird sort of look, which I think is actually pretty cool. So one of the things that I want to call attention to in here is when it comes to these sliders, the first thing I'm going to do before I edit this, because I like the way this looks, is I'm going to call this pie maybe I should spell pie right, and I'm gonna say new, and that has saved this gradient map for me here. But one of the things that I want to do is I want to edit this. So these little sliders that appear in between all of your colors that you select actually dictate how close all of these and how abrupt all of these sort of meld into each other, which is really cool. People are saying "Berry Nation" in the chat, and I love it. Clever Devlin says there's a satin pie. I did not know that. Yeah, you can kind of move these sliders and get more of an abrupt fade in between all of these, which is kind of interesting and useful, especially if you're working with something. I actually like that. Working with something that is a little odd like this, you know, maybe you need like a very specific gradient. If you're working with like bevel and embossed text and you're going to add a gradient map to that, and there's all these different facets in your text, maybe you do that as well. But I'm gonna go ahead and press OK. I'm gonna say okay, and I'm gonna turn our pie back on. And then what I'm gonna do is I am going to, you know what, I realized I didn't make this a smart object, so I'm gonna convert it to smart object now and just know that I would have done that much easier or much earlier. And what I'm gonna do is Control-Shift-N to make a new layer, and I am going to come up here to my basic gradients and do like a transparent gradient. I'm going to snag this red color and kind of make a desaturation of that, and I'm going to drag out a nice gradient over this and then use blending modes to kind of fade the saturation kind of back into space on this. Maybe something like that. Maybe I need something a little more abrupt, so I've pressed U, Control U for hue and saturation, and I can actually come in here and maybe make that more desaturated just to kind of darken it. Maybe I like actually legitimately darken it like that to kind of push it back. I'll turn the fill down on it just slightly. And then, let's see, what else could we do to this? You could actually, I mean, if you wanted to, you could come in and change the pictures. I think it would be kind of interesting to have this, right? And then we can go into layers with Control-Shift-L, and we can edit some of these levels. In fact, making it more dark with kind of a, you know, not a huge difference between the dark and light tones is actually better. And then what you could do is you could combine some of what you have learned from the previous challenges and do something like snag some fruit and throw some fruit like sitting on the top of this. Maybe we could do that super quick. I don't know. Let's go to the very first challenge and let's grab some blueberries. You could add some fruit on the top of this, and because you've created, and normally, obviously, I would tell you to spend a little more time making yours look more like natural pie filling, but what you could do once you kind of figure out a way that works best for you for this is you could change the color of the pie filling and create mock-ups for all different kinds of pies if you wanted to. So there are some pretty cool applications for this. Maybe we'll throw a blueberry in here. Maybe there's a blueberry sitting right here, and maybe we Control-Shift-N and paint bucket a dark color in here and put that on a clipping mask. And I'm running out of time and I know it, but I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna darken this like so, and then I'm going to kind of start masking out some of the darker points in here, but you can see how you could actually take this and start creating something that is a little more interesting. But my main goal with this, even though it is a strange challenge, is to encourage you to go into all of those weird filters that you think, you know, I'm never gonna use, and find a way to use it. Find a reason to use it and show me what you come up with. I've given you like a prompt that you can do, sort of a flat round haggis. I've never had haggis before, but I don't think I'm interested. Yeah, use those weird tools, find something that you can do with it. Experiment and at least get to know those tools just in case they can help you in the future. I hope that you have enjoyed the strange challenge. Thank you so much for watching me, and I will be back tomorrow morning with yet another challenge. We're going to get into custom mockups towards the end of this week that are more in-depth than any other mockup challenge before. So I'm excited, and I will see you folks next time. Adios and happy designing.